Good evening. Tonight I'm off up to Guildford to see my good old friend Simon, who is, believe it or not, a real-life blacksmith. Now the reason I'm paying Simon a visit is because I, as a fantasy author, have written a lot about blacksmithing and smithery throughout the years. And I don't actually know if I'm getting any of it right, besides what Wikipedia is telling me. So I thought I'd actually go and ask a real-life blacksmith all about blacksmithing to add a bit of realism to what I write and actually find out a bit more about the craft and how it all works and a bit of the tropes and pitfalls that we always fall into. All blacksmiths have to live in the wilderness, apparently.
And so is it really bumpy and potholey?
Yeah!
Perfect. Keep going.
It's a blacksmith!
Hi!
This is Simon Bushell, blacksmith extraordinaire, and he's going to show us his forge.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Straight through there.
Now this is a forge. I've just been making some calipers. Some giant calipers.
Some calipers, very nice.
For bowl makers, returners.
So tell us about yourself. How did you get into blacksmithing?
Funnily enough, it was actually coming to this very workshop. You go and do a work experience. And I just thought, I could go and try to do some blacksmithing, like I'd messed around with wood and stone and ceramics and stuff. And I thought, I'll try and do some blacksmithing. I rang up this guy, Terry, who owns this place. I said, can I come and do some work for you for a week? And he was like, yeah. Like, earlier you get here, the more you learn. So I got on my bike and I cycled here. And I did a week and it was great. And so I came back for about a month during the summer and just absolutely loved it. Just loved the environment and like the hands-on, getting dirty and actually doing things, like really physical, creative things. He told me about a college in Hereford, so I applied to go there, went there for 3 years and then went self-employed.
Yeah, and now now
I'm back here again.
Full-on blacksmith.
Yeah.
But not only just a full-on blacksmith, a travelling blacksmith.
Yes.
Which is like proper medieval. It's like
apart from the van and the trailer.
Well.
But you know, it's this similar kind of deal, yeah.
So what are you going to show us tonight? Because obviously the reason I've come up is to find out where myself as an author, where I've been going wrong in the portrayal of blacksmithery.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think we're going to make?
Well, I thought we could start off by looking at the really basic forging processes, such as forging, which is the squishing and manipulating of metal, forming, which is the bending and so rather than actually like compressing the grain structures, it's just bending it, forming it, and cutting, which can be anything from chiseling to punching holes. We could probably cover all of those in one foul swoop of making something like, I don't know, a little knife.
Yeah. I think everyone's expecting us to make a sword or a suit of armour.
Yeah. Yeah. That will be a mission.
Yeah. Right, let's get cracking. Do you want to show us around?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me introduce you to our favourite tool, which is the anvil. Obviously, yeah, there are things that have changed over time within blacksmithing and things that haven't. And this is pretty much I believe as they were back in the day.
All the tongs.
All the tongs for every possible shape of metal, and the fire. Again, not really changed much since back in the day, apart from that we've got the electric fan as opposed to
a fire or a forge.
Well, actually, see that's one of those funny things. Like the forge, the word forge is used in like 3 different circumstances. There's forges in to forge, so you are forging. The hearth is also referred to as a forge.
Yeah.
And the whole bloody workshop is called a forge as well, or a smithy.
So I am correct if I said forge in my books.
Yeah, you're also correct.
All right.
Power hammer. And they, I don't know, some power hammers that are still in use are hundreds of years old. in our college, one of the best ones was about 100 years old, I think, and it was about twice the size of this. We'll do a little bit of playing on that. Version of the same thing. Another hydraulic press there.
It's that thing that looks like a droid.
Drilly thing, drilly thing.
Drilly thing, drilly thing.
Cutty thing.
Cutty thing. Cutty thing.
Fly press.
Fly press. That sounds like something I'd do at the gym. If I went to the gym.
But it just works on inertia. Honk it round. Hard as you can. You can get an awful lot of pressure on that. Pretty basic. Screw, wham.
Amazing.
Bosh. Obviously, as the Industrial Revolution and stuff came around, it meant that all these things that people found difficult in the olden days became a lot easier. At the same time, all the stuff we do now has come from all of that stuff they did back then. So to kind of give respect to that and to fully understand and appreciate what we do, I guess, you know, we need to keep that alive, and we need to keep that going. And a lot of the methods and techniques people use, there's nothing better than that even now. There's not that much better than an anvil. Big lump of steel.
Why not?
Yeah.
Speaking of, should we hit some?
Yeah. Safety first. So, coke, it's a bit like coal, but it was coal. What you do to wood to turn it into charcoal, you kind of do the same to coal to turn it into coke. In the centre of the fire, that gets to about 1400 degrees.
13 to 1400?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is hot enough to melt steel. So this is mild steel. It's the most common kind of steel that's used at the moment. A little kind of decorative knifing thing. That's starting to get in. Never on there. Always here. Always like about there down. That's it. One.
I can feel it starting to go.
Yeah.
Yeah!
Back in. Back in, yeah.
So this is just so you can hold it.
Yeah.
So no gloves,
Well,
a bit of protective gear.
yeah.
So, but no leather apron.
Oh no, actually, to be fair, a lot of the other smiths in here wear leather aprons. That's still definitely done.
Okay.
I just don't have a very good one.
Fair
But it
enough.
stops stuff like this happening.
Let's have a look at
That's like that's your standard sort of sign of a blacksmith.
Injuries then. So you're handling the metal with bare hands, sparks flying, massive machines. How common are injuries?
They are common.
Burns the most common?
Probably burns are amongst the most common, but ideally, the better you get, the more you become aware when not to touch the hot thing. A good injury with hammering actually is when you're getting really into it, you're getting like closer and closer, and your head's getting closer and closer, and you miss the metal and you hit the anvil and it kicks back, and it, no joke, it can get you in the head. And I've known smiths to just like on the floor.
What, knocked out?
Yeah, they knock themselves out. The most common injury within blacksmithing is probably a bad back.
Because you're bent over all the time.
Yeah, lifting everything. There it is. There's the little...
Yeah.
This is the prick Pritchell hole.
The Pritchell hole?
Yes.
What's that hole?
Why it's called Pritchell hole? No, that's the Hardy hole. Yeah, the next bit will be the blade.
Will it be an assassin's blade, a throwing dagger, letter opener?
Cut this. How long do we want the blade?
Long.
I'm cutting it on an angle. I'll explain why I'm cutting it on an angle and why it appears to be the wrong angle. To leave the workspace like next to the fire to go over to the grinding bay of and just cut it off. But I've cut it the wrong way around.
On purpose?
Yeah. What happens, because this side, you imagine that's the chamfer that makes the blade.
Yeah.
Obviously that bit of metal we're going to hit so it gets thinner. It gets thinner and stretches, which stretches that edge round.
It's finally time to finish the knife. We're now going to, as Simon puts it, clean it up.
So this just gets all the scale off.
And I was going to touch it.
This is, wait, we've got to stand far away, the massive knife.
A little known fact about blacksmiths is that in modern times they're actually paid with Budweiser. Chin chin. Good forging.
Absolutely.
So we've had some questions in from various people on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through them. Quick fire. Do they use iron or is it all steel these days?
These days it's mostly steel, which
Steel.
is iron with, as we discussed earlier, a carbon content.
Bit of carbon.
A little bit of carbon. To put it simply, the more carbon, the stronger the steel.
How long does it take the forge to heat up, or do you keep it banked overnight?
Not in general blacksmithing, no, because to light a fire, from the time it takes to get to your hearth, dig out the fire and light it and get it to a temperature where you can start to forge metal, can be, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. From the morning, from like stone coals to 1500 degrees.
Now, we had a lot of questions about swords.
Yeah.
And you and I have known each other a long time.
Yes.
And I always constantly ask you, where's my sword? Have you
Yes.
made my sword yet? So do you want to talk a little bit about blacksmithing and weaponsmithing?
So many people come to us and say, like they'll come to me as a blacksmith and say, can you make horseshoes? And I say, no, I'm not a farrier. And they go, what? Back in history, the blacksmith would have done everything. The blacksmith would have done the wrought iron gates and railings and horses, weapons, if they were relevant, tools, everything. The blacksmith would have done it all. But now, over time, each one of those elements has kind of separated and gone off in their own niche and gone off in their own sort of specialism.
Makes sense.
And so now we have something like myself, I suppose. We have artist blacksmiths. You've got farriers. There are swordsmiths in the country, There are swordsmiths in the world. Owen Bush is one very skilled bladesmith of many sorts. So if you're interested in swords, look up Owen Bush. He's a very, very knowledgeable chap in that sort of.
Bush. Was reforging broken swords common?
Obviously, a steel that is made for a sword is a hard steel.
Hard
it's
steel.
a high carbon steel.
High carbon, yeah.
Whether it's folded or whatever, it's been forged and it's been hardened, which is a heat treatment process.
Yeah.
So that the edge is tough but not brittle.
Yeah.
So that it won't break, but it'll keep
yeah.
an edge. All of that can be reversed by normalizing or annealing. Annealing, getting the metal hot, cooling it very, very slowly, as slowly as you can.
So you're not quenching it.
You're not quenching it
At all.
You've then got hardening, which is getting it hot and quenching it in water, which quenches it it cools it down very quickly, or you can quench it in oil.
Oil.
Or
Never
other
had oil
substitutes.
before.
Yeah, oil.
Ah.
Originally, whale fat
Really?
was like a good one. Yeah, it cools
Really
it.
interesting.
It cools it slower than water. Tempering is the third one, and that is basically to take the tension out of the steel.
Right.
If you can reset that grain structure, get the broken sword, anneal it, you could fire weld it back together. You could just like reforge it into something else.
Films and books.
Yeah.
When you see or read about a blacksmith, and I know you've read my books, and I know there are some things that I know I do wrong.
Oh, I think you've done all right, really.
If you had to choose your 3 most annoying things that, as a blacksmith, that when you see it on TV or in a film or read it in a book, really annoy you because they're so inaccurate, what are your top 3?
Yeah, sparks, I guess. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, because that does happen. But in the majority of your forging processes, of your forging, whatever, you're working at a yellow heat. To get technical about this, the residue from each blow is mostly going to be just scale and a few little light odds.
Just that grey sort of oxidisation that you get on the top.
Yeah, if
Not
when
a thing.
you're hitting the metal, it's sparking like that, you're either fire welding, which could be a very regular practice. The surface of the metal is like melting. You put them together, you hit them, and they fuse into one piece, which is a wonderful, beautiful, fantastic process. Very difficult to do.
Alright,
But
what about the dinging then?
if you're hitting the anvil more times than you hit the metal, then you're definitely doing something wrong.
Okay, so that whole sort of, multiple rings on the anvil, then the hit.
I am
multiple
quite glad
rings.
you asked that, because that is a kind of... I see that in blacksmiths sometimes, and I do feel that sometimes it's a bit of a showy thing. Ding, ding, bang, 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 ding, ding, ding. There is an original reason for that, I believe. If you're forging a piece of metal quite a lot, and you want to stop, or you want to like... forging one side and you want to turn it,
Yeah,
I drop the hammer on the anvil
and you let it bounce.
and you just let it bounce. And if I was just to drop it and stop, it would go bing, 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 bing. And it would stop.
Yeah.
And then I'd start again. But because you only stop for that fraction of a second, it's just ding, ding, boom, 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 you carry on. It is genuine to blacksmithing, but it's picked up on as like kind of
And it's
thing.
made into more of a thing.
Made
than it
into more of
possibly
a
is.
thing, and
Alright.
yeah, exactly.
What's your third?
Third thing, I guess there's the image. There's the overall image.
Burly, big bearded dude.
Yeah, no one has beards in blacksmithing anymore.
Yeah.
Say you type into Google blacksmith,
Blacksmithing.
you'll come up with these very stereotypical images. In reality, nowadays, there's probably maybe 25-30% female blacksmiths, which in my opinion is still not enough. Even the male blacksmiths, so many I know, are just like very kind of respectable old chaps. Like one of the finest tutors I've ever had. He would come into college every day, a nice shirt, clean shaven, little specs, good
Doesn't
haircut.
look like a blacksmith.
Just like quite a short chap,
Yeah.
not huge. I'm sure I've seen him wear a tie in the forge before. It's one of these things that I guess has been. I don't mean to ruin this. I don't mean to ruin any of this. At some of the festivals, I have been known to forge barefoot or bare-chested or whatever, I usually regret it
when
quite
in Rome,
quickly.
thinking,
Oh, I'm going to put my apron back on. Oh, I got a bit of spark in my eye. I'm going to put my glasses back on. Again, the image probably comes from the original image, which is before they had steel toe cap boots, before they had safety glasses, before they had ear defenders.
Is it true that knowing how to make a weapon means you can be better at using it?
I can say I'm making carving axes and green woodworking carving knives, and I use them all, and I'm learning to use and make equally. So it's kind of.
I also have a gypsy-like race that need weapons, so would love to know whether a mobile forge is a realistic possibility, which is really interesting.
Because it absolutely is.
Because you have a mobile forge.
Yeah, so with my Nowhere Forge, I built it 3 years ago, and it is.
It's just a trailer.
It's a trailer.
I don't want to like say just a trailer, but it's a very clever trailer. But it's no bigger or smaller than your usual trailer. It's looks like half the size of a caravan. It
looks a lot like a horse box. It started with one half, about that sort of size.
Just wind it up with and it blows the air into
a little hand crank fan that blows into the hearth. I was forging on charcoal, hardwood charcoal. That gets the metal hot enough. I had a little anvil in there that I drag out, put on a stand.
About this big, isn't it? It's this
like little thing that I could just about pick up on my own. Since 2 years ago, it's progressed. I've now just finished the third year of dragging it around the country. I don't know how much this trailer weighs now. I'm still trying to pare it back as much as I can. I think next year I will be right back to like the basics, but more efficient working. It's got awnings that come out, it's got like doors, and the side folds down.
Simon, I want to say thank you. I'm going to say cheers. It's great seeing you in general, because you're one of my oldest mates.
Yeah, man.
But it's been really fun actually like getting into your forge and making something, and it's really fun to actually know about how blacksmithing works now, but also back in the day, and all the silly things that I've written into books over the years that I shouldn't have written in. Don't forget, I'm going to be doing more of these videos over the coming weeks. I'm going to be seeing more experts like Simon and finding out how to do things like horse riding, archery, sword fighting, the whole lot. Don't forget to suggest some. I'm going to be talking about it on my Facebook and Twitter pages. You can catch me at www.bengali.com. You can catch Simon at
the Nowhere Forge Facebook page.
Boom. He's been Simon Bushell, blacksmith extraordinaire. I've been BenCast. Catch you soon.
Hey.